Now we take you to Guildhall, where Rex Alston will describe the scene.
Well, I'm speaking to you from the Musicians' Gallery, looking down on a scene of splendour such as only Guildhall can offer on one of its great occasions. Tonight, in this ancient hall so rich in history, the President, the Vice President and the Council of the Law Society are entertaining the members of the American Bar Association and their ladies as the culmination, as you will have heard, of a week of sessions of the 80th American Bar Association meeting. When the Pilgrim Fathers sailed from Plymouth in 1920, they took with them the common law of England, which thus became the foundation of the American legal system. And it seems appropriate that the administrative headquarters of the City of London should be the scene of this gathering of so many of the legal luminaries of the English-speaking world. Guildhall, full of tradition, is rich also in statues of the famous. At the far end, Pitt, Earl of Chatham, an impassioned opponent of the granting of American independence 181 years ago. I wonder what he'd have thought if he'd been present here tonight. And then there are others, Pitt the Younger, Nelson, Wellington, and now, to join this galaxy of stars of a bygone age, is the statue of the greatest Englishman of his day, Sir Winston Churchill, who is going to speak to us in a moment or so. The tables are tastefully decorated with pink and red and white carnations. The band of the Coldstream Guards, conducted by Major Douglas Pope, who is the director of music of the Coldstream Guards, has been playing throughout the evening. And we've got a large number of people here tonight. The chairman is Mr. Ian Yeaman, who's the president of the Law Society. He has the Lord Mayor of London on one side of him and the Lady Mayoress on the other. And then there's Sir Winston and Lady Churchill. The Honourable Charles S. Rhine, whose talk you heard a few moments ago, and the Master of the Rolls, the Right Honourable Lord Evershed, and on the other side of Mr. Yeaman's is the Honourable Earl Warren, Chief Justice of the United States, and also the Right Honourable Viscount Kilmuir, the Lord High Chancellor of Great Britain, and many others. Well, we've already had the toast of the Mayor and the Corporation proposed by Sir Leonard Holmes, who's a past President of the Law Society, and the Lord Mayor, Sir Callum Welsh, has replied. And now, all is ready, I think, for Sir Winston Churchill to address the gathering, and he will be introduced to you by the Toastmaster.
President, my lords, sheriffs, ladies and gentlemen, pray silence for the Right Honourable Sir Winston Churchill, Knight of the Most Noble Order of the Garter, Order of Merit, Companion of Honour, Deputy Lieutenant, Member of Parliament.
Mr. President, my Lord Mayor, my Lord Chancellor, Your Excellency, my Lords, Sheriffs, ladies and gentlemen, I am very glad that it has fallen to me to propose the toast of the legal profession. I can do so without the slightest bias. I am very glad indeed that I am also to welcome here the many illustrious American guests who have come from within and without the ranks of that profession. Several thousand members of the American Bar Association have come to our island for part of their annual convention. I earnestly trust that our hospitality has been equal to the sentiments of pleasure with which we welcome them. That is a remarkable fact, and it is a compliment of which we are all deeply sensible. It illuminates a great truth, spoken perhaps at a time when it was particularly advantageous. A great truth, in the main, law and equity stand in the forefront of the moral forces of our two countries, and they rank our common language in that store of bonds of unity, on which I firmly believe our life and destiny depend. You are over 160 millions, and we, with our dominions gathered round us, are 70 or 80 millions. And if we work together, there is no doubt that we shall together represent a factor in the development of the whole world which no one will have any cause to regret. The alliances of former days were framed on physical strength, practically expressed. But the English-speaking unity can find its lasting coherence above all in those higher ties of intellect and spirit of which the law and language are a supreme expression. Last week, you, or many of you, visited Runnymede. There was the foundation on which you have placed a monument. It has often been pointed out that the 5th and the 14th Amendments of the American Constitution, the body which was concerned in framing it, contained 6 members of the Inns of Court, I may remark. It's often been pointed out that these amendments are an echo of the Magna Carta. No person shall under the 5th Amendment be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And of the 14th Amendment, no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the process of law, nor deny any person within the jurisdiction equal protection of the laws. National governments may indeed obtain sweeping emergency powers for the sake of protecting the community in times of war or other perils. These will temporarily curtail or suspend the freedom of ordinary men and women. But special powers must be granted by the elected representatives of these same people, by Congress or by Parliament, as the case may be. They do not belong to the state or government as a right. Their exercise needs vigilant scrutiny, and their grant may be swiftly withdrawn. This terrible 20th century, which we have witnessed, has exposed both our communities to grim experiments, and both have emerged restored, confident, and guarded. I speak, of course, as a layman on legal topics, but I believe that our differences are more apparent than real, and that they are the result of geographical and other physical conditions rather than any true division of principle. An omnipotent Parliament and a small legal profession, tightly bound by precedent, are all very well in an island which has not been invaded for nearly, I think I must correct a remark, nearly 2,000 years. Yeah. 49 states of the Union, each with fundamental rights, and each with a different geographical situation. That constitutes a totally different proposition. Between Magna Carta and the formulation of the American Constitution, we in Britain can claim the authorship of the whole growth of the English common law. That, I think, will not be disputed. Our pioneers took it with them when they crossed the Atlantic Ocean. For many centuries in the Middle Ages, English lawyers would not admit that the law could be changed even by Parliament. It was something sacrosanct, inviolable, above human tampering, like right and wrong. And this seems to have been the view of the English Chief Justice. Now, I must get that right now. Cook. He, as early as the 16th century, unfolded his dream for this country of a Supreme Court above the legislature for Great Britain. This dream vanished in the Civil War, our Civil War. I mean, because we had some of it ourselves. The Supreme Court, however, survived and flourished in the United States. England was too compact and uniform a community to have need of it. But the Supreme Court in America has often been the guardian and upholder of American liberty before all the world. Long may it continue to thrive. There are wider aspects to these considerations. Justice knows no frontiers. Within our considerable communities, we have sought to regulate our affairs with equity. We have now reached the point where nations must contrive a system and practice to resolve their disputes and settle them peacefully. We have not so far succeeded in this. Some have tried at one swoop in the hour of victory to draw up an all-comprehending scheme to meet international possibilities, such as the Charter of the United Nations. In a recent speech, that most distinguished Australian statesman, Mr. Menzies, whom I hope we will meet, told us that justice was not being achieved in the Assembly. That is a serious charge, but it is true. I do not throw in my lot with those who say that Britain should leave the United Nations. But it is certain that if the Assembly sometimes to take its decisions, continues to take its decisions on grounds of enmity, opportunism, or purely jealousy or petulance, the whole structure may be brought to nothing. This shape, the shape of the United Nations, has changed greatly from its original form and from the intention of its architects. The difference between the great powers have thrown responsibility increasingly on the Assembly. This has been vastly swollen by the addition of new nations. We wish all these new nations well. Indeed, we created many of them and have done our best since to restore their integrity and prosperity. But it is anomalous that the vote or prejudice of any small country should affect events involving populations many times exceeding their numbers, and should affect them as self-advantage or momentary self-advantage may direct. This should be improved. There are many cases where the United Nations have failed. I don't wish to cast a gloom over your thoughts, but Hungary does creep across my mind. Justice cannot be a hit or miss system. We cannot be content with an arrangement where our new system of international laws applies only to those who show themselves willing to keep them. I do not want tonight to suggest an elaborate new charter for the United Nations, but I think we can all agree that in its present conception, its imperfections must be changed. The mere creation of international organizations does not relieve us of our individual responsibilities, at least not until an international system has been created which is truly effective. It falls to the righteous man individually to do what he can and to form with his friends alliances which are manifestly crowned with justice and honor. Such are the North Atlantic Treaty and other combinations which the free world has made. Such, I trust and believe, is in the main the union of the English-speaking peoples. I have the honor to propose to you the toast of the legal profession, which in its far-reaching way has steadily woven forward and upward all those principles which we have in mind and which I have ventured perhaps to touch upon to you tonight.